Welcome to the Zero Breach Zone, the ultimate podcast dedicated to safeguarding K-12 schools from cyber threats and beyond.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Phil, your co-host guiding you through the intersection of cybersecurity and education.
Each episode, Phil and I will dive into conversations that matter, breaking down the latest cybersecurity challenges that schools face.
And we're not doing it alone. We'll be bringing some experts in the field from the EdTech world and beyond for interviews, getting their take on the most pressing issues.
Plus, every episode will wrap up with a recurring segment, The Parting Tool, where we'll share a top tip or tool that you can start using immediately to stay ahead of breaches, phishing, and everything in between.
So, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you here with us. Let's not just listen, but let's take some action. Connect with us on LinkedIn and other socials and join the conversation. Together, we can build a strong community dedicated to protecting our schools. Welcome to the Zero Breach Zone. I'm Phil Hintz, my co-host,
Andy Lombardo.
Good to see you again. We are broadcasting live from the FETC wonderful conference here in Orlando, Florida. It's been phenomenal seeing all the folks here. If you hear the loud noises and the ambient noises in the background, that's tons of people walking the hallways. We look up this way and you see us looking out at somebody. It's probably because somebody's trying to make faces at us or something here at the conference. But it's great to be here at the heart of EdTech, the heart of the EdTech world right now as we stand. But even more importantly, we have a wonderful guest with us today. It's Mr. Jeff McCoy here. He is Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, I'm thinking.
Associate Superintendent for Academics.
All right.
Close enough, Phil.
Tell us who you are, what you're doing, and how'd you get in this business, this crazy business anyway?
So I'm the Associate Superintendent for Academics in Greenville County. I've actually been my entire 25 years there in
Greenville County,
South Carolina. Yep. And so I actually spent time on the technology side and the academic side. So my last 9 or 10 years have been more on the curriculum instruction side, but still very... I started as instructional technology, actually,
okay. All right.
And did a little bit of technical, some sys conversions and some things like that. And then the last 10 years, not something I enjoyed doing, but so moved quickly over to the academic side after that.
Sure.
But still very connected to technology is a big part of what I do.
You started out as a teacher, right?
I did. Started out as a teacher in my district 25 years ago and moved in the district.
You speak the edge you speak, as I
do.
Say.
Yes.
But you can also speak the geek speak.
Correct. That's great.
That's a great combination to have. So you've been doing that for 25 years.
Same district.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's unheard of these days.
Yeah, I agree.
I remember the videos, the Did You Know videos. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
You know, kids born today in the year 2004 will have 8 different jobs by the time they graduate.
Oh, yeah.
Or by the time they retire and all this stuff. And
That's so true.
And in your case, that wasn't the case. So,
No, I've been in the whole time. So a little bit of an anomaly.
All right. So your role right now, you still have your finger in technology.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the size of your district and maybe the staff that you're responsible for or that worked with you.
Sure. So we're about 79,000 students in South Carolina. We're the largest district in South Carolina.
Okay.
And I really, everybody reports to me from the academic side. So anything academic and including instructional technology. They report to an executive director that reports to me. But instructional technology came over when I was director of instructional technology. We reported to the technical side.
Okay.
When I came over to the academic side, I brought instructional technology with me,
okay.
Since most of what they do is instruction.
Yeah.
And so they just bridge the gap between technology and instruction.
And that's the thing that's why we call it EdTech, educational technology. It really starts with the ed part of it, and the teaching and learning aspect of it, which makes it a little harder for some of the folks that are coming in over from the corporate world to get acclimated to how we do things in education first. Yeah. Have you experienced any of that issues with maybe some vendors that you were bringing in that they didn't quite understand the ed part of EdTech?
Yeah, I think certainly those ones that maybe, particularly sales reps that sometimes come from corporate selling different products and then come to the education side. And it is different. The runways, I think, a little different in the education side. Yeah. So I think part of that's just taking some vendors under your wings and saying, like, hey, look, you're not gonna make that sale when you come to the district office that day. There's a little bit of a runway there and sometimes a big need space. I think they acclimate pretty quickly, but there definitely is a difference, I think, between the corporate sales, so to speak, and then versus education sales.
Okay.
I've started to notice something over the past couple of years that not enough to call it a trend yet, but I've started to have more vendors reach out and say, my company doesn't understand the education space. Can you help give us some insight?
Yes.
Which, partly a strategy, but it's a welcome strategy for me.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to say, these are the things I'm concerned about. These are why we don't traditionally go with this kind of vendor in the past.
Yes.
So are you seeing anything like that?
Yeah, I think we draw a pretty big distinction between what we say in our district we have, and this is pretty common, I think, even probably among education entities even here, but we say we have vendors and then we have solution partners. And so there's a distinction. There's sometimes vendors that come in, they sell you something, they walk away, you see them at renewal time.
Yeah.
And then you have those true solution partners that are truly partnering with you to further your goals, and they check in on you and your partners in designing whether it's instruction or designing the products. We put people in two categories.
Yeah.
Typically, the longer ones are solution partners. The vendors a lot of times aren't the ones that stick around very long because you don't have the same success rate as you do with a partner.
Yeah. It's a good point, because I know in our district, when you do have a partner like that, they're always the first one that we can call and reach out to. We usually get better customer service when it's a cheap partner like that.
Yes.
When it's just somebody trying to make a sale. Obviously, the goal of the zero breach zone is to have a zero breach zone. From your lens and the academic side of it, what are some of the things that you're doing to help with teachers understand cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness, that sort of thing?
So I think we do have an amazing technology department that really does a good job. I think prevention is the biggest thing, right? What can you put in place at the front end?
Yes.
So you don't have to rely on 12,000 employees to do the right thing,
Yes.
right? Because the scams are tricky these days. One of the things we did, our technology department, our CTO, they went after, I think we were the only district in the country that had it. There may be one or two more now, but we went after the same certification bank organizations have, which things like you have to have multi-factor authentication. You have to have those things that helps hopefully prevent, even if a teacher clicks on something and gives away their password, that's the likelihood of somebody being able to get in is much less, because now that cell phone is being pinged as far as you got to put your code in.
So how did your teachers react when you tried to roll that out?
I think certainly when people don't understand, I think again, the technology department, certainly we tried to help with that, to help them understand, hey, this is so that we're not giving away your information, or it's going to protect you from scams, it protects your student data. I don't know that we had a lot of pushback. It's like
They get
change, right? It's like everything else. There's some change and some people are going to complain about it, but I think most people. Yeah, exactly. I think most people, though, appreciated the extra layer of security and don't have some of the same issues we were having prior to that.
Yeah. The more we have breaches and things like that, the more that becomes, oh, that's what they were talking about there in the tech. And
That's correct.
Speaking of breaches, I think you're a Power School district.
We are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it's okay. Yeah, we've done a further episode just recently that dropped talking about the what everybody's talking about. The cybersecurity of major vendors like that, especially major SIS vendors. How did that affect you?
So we were fortunate. Power School breach did not affect us. Partly because we have that certification and we have such a vigilant technology department, we had some safeguards in place where we block certain domains from certain countries that we know we get hit with a lot with hackers.
So from your lens with cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness training for your staff, how's that been going?
I think it's good. I mean, we try to do, and again, the technology department, I think, does a really good job of constantly pushing out things. One of the things he's also done is even on the screensavers on the computers, there's different technology tips or cybersecurity tips, just so it's always in front of teachers and always in front of staff that, hey, don't give away your information. Hey, remember, don't click on links that we send out probably monthly. He does to say, remember, the technology department never asked for your password.
That's right.
So don't give it to us, so those types of things. But I think the key to that cybersecurity, making people vigilant, is that constant pushing, constant in front of them. It's not a once a year training.
Yep.
It's that you do some training, but it's that constant reminders and constant pushes in there.
No, nobody gets annoyed. It's not like the bloodborne.
Well, we have some stuff at the beginning of the year with the bloodborne pathogens. Certainly they go through this, actually, the cybersecurity type stuff. And I'm sure people sometimes get to the point where they just, becomes, oh, here's another email, I'm just going to delete that.
Yeah.
But I think they're short. They scroll across the screen. Our communications department does a really good job of saying, hey, got to keep, if you want people to read it, it's got to be a sentence, 2 sentences. They're not reading 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
I was a former English major, so I was always, when I do communication, I have to go back and cut out.
Yes, correct. Other people don't read it.
So you talked about certification and believe I know you're on the board for One EdTech.
Yes.
So tell us a little, is that part of the certification that you're talking about when you refer to that, or is it a different one?
It's a little different one. So the certification they got from a lot of banks gets more of a corporate, more of a non-education certification.
Okay. Yeah.
This one for One EdTech. Now we use a lot of the One EdTech products. We use a lot of the One EdTech language in our RFPs that we do as far as what we expect our vendors to have. So it's a really good making sure everything's going to work. You know, if you go to One EdTech has trusted ed apps, which we use, which we can go before we're getting ready to choose a vendor to see, hey, how are they rated on cybersecurity?
Yeah.
If they have yellow or red, that might be a company we stay away from because they've got some issues even with third-party vendors they use or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, I'm on their board of directors, and I think One EdTech has done an amazing job of really creating a space to help districts, large and small, navigate the complexities of cybersecurity. It's a lot to keep up. And so One EdTech does a really good job of helping districts do that.
All right. Tremendous. So the big thing is with One EdTech, I noticed they've done a really good job with AI as well. And I know you've been doing a lot of sweeping around the country in terms of AI development. You and I had a partner on a couple of things as well. And Dr. Cheryl Abshire, we had on the show just recently as well, doing a lot of speaking of AI. Can you speak a little bit to their AI vetted tool and how that works?
So I think that came born out of also AI came upon us so fast, the creation side of it. And I think even with vendors, a lot of times prior to that 2022 ChatGPT release, I don't know that people really thought about training models and AI. And so it very quickly became apparent. Sometimes I think well-intentioned, but vendors were using data to train their AI models, but really just didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of came to a head where one of our One EdTech board meetings I know came to say, hey, districts need help with this. Like they need help with actually some sort of rubric or something that when we're evaluating vendors, we can say, we know what questions to ask them about AI. And so that rubric was really born out of that need for, again, every district is small, big, there's different levels of knowledge. And so now they can actually ask these questions, and that's part of that rubric that they say, hey, you may want to ask the vendor some questions about this AI, or do they use your data to train? And are you okay with that? So it's just really those prompting questions to say, it's an awareness. You just have to know what the vendors are doing and not doing with your data.
All right, interesting. At the Zero Breach Zone, we always have a parting tip or parting tool. Do you have any from the academic lens, but also if you can have a cybersecurity bent, do you have a parting tool that you could offer our listeners?
So I don't know about a tool, but I know other than the One EdTech Trusted Ed apps for us is a lifesaver. One EdTech Trusted Ed apps, great, because it takes some of that work out of having to vet every app that's brought up by teachers and go to a conference and see something and be like, oh, we want this. So it takes out some of that incredible workload. I think from the tip side is that really cybersecurity is not the technology solely department's responsibility. Is that has to be across every single department. And so even in our own department in academics, when our team is out training people, making sure that when they see something that's happening as a bad practice or an unsafe practice, to be able to have that password written down on your desk on a sticky note, to be able to say, hey, that's not, you need to make sure that you keep that secure. That's not a great way to do that. And so I think making sure every department knows the protocols, knows what we expect, and then they call it out when they see it. And it's not like, oh, that's technology department, they can worry about that. But it's that everybody has to be these days, everybody has to be aware of cybersecurity. Everybody has to be aware of the practices that keep us safe.
I'm so happy. You don't know how happy I am to hear that from the academic side of things. Because obviously we as CTOs are always preaching that, but it feels like sometimes we're hitting a wall on that. But to hear that, I hope our listeners will take that to heart and make sure they're having the conversation with their academic officers and obviously their superintendents and getting everybody in the room on the same page. As one of my former superintendents used to say, the reason we're a success is because we're all pulling on the same rope in the same direction.
And I'll say too, and you've probably experienced this too, Phil, if you've ever had a breach of any kind, it's not the technology department that has to deal with that all the time. They have to deal with it too, but a lot of times your breaches come through software that academics department's using. And so when that happens, the academics department's going to be called into the question to say, how are we using this software? What's it used for? Why did we choose it? Because that's what the parents are asking. So I think from the front end, the academics department needs to be forward facing on that too as well and know those rules, because you're going to be called on the carpet too when it comes to some sort of data breach.
Thank you for the wonderful tip. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy. You're off to present to the
Yes.
presentation here in a little bit here. Appreciate all the time and expertise that you offer.
Yep.
Here at the Zero Breach Zone, we always try to keep our schools a zero breach zone.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Zero Breach Zone podcast. We hope our conversation left you feeling more informed and empowered to protect our K-12 schools from cyber threats.
A big shout out to our sponsor, CyberNut AI, for making this podcast possible.
CyberNut is committed to providing security awareness training designed for schools, helping educators and students navigate the digital world with confidence.
If you want to learn more about how CyberNut can help strengthen your school's cybersecurity defenses, head over to their website, cybernut.com, and sign up for their training program. Together, we can create a safer online environment for everyone in our educational communities.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Connect with us on LinkedIn to join the conversation and help us build a strong community around cybersecurity and education.
Join us next time on the Zero Breach Zone for more insightful conversations. Stay vigilant, stay ahead, and let's keep our schools a
Zero
breach
zone.